I've tried to beat Mario 3D World and most new Super Mario Bros. Games backwards, so why not 3D Land as well? A big thanks to Cyboo for modding the game to make this challenge possible. The premise is simple. I have to beat the levels from the finish to start. The flagpole is moved to the beginning, I start at the end, and all pipe pathways have been reversed too. There's not much to say about 1-1 and 1-2, but 1-3 is where we first run into trouble. You normally have to drop down on top of the flag, so we clearly cannot make any sort of progress this way. But thankfully, there's an alternate warp pipe we can take to go to 2-1, and that level was also easy. But then we move on to 2-2, our first real challenge. You would normally step on these green blocks that slowly spawn a path in front of you, but we are nowhere near that green block and have to somehow get across this pool of poison which instantly kills us. Thankfully, we have the Tanuki suit and a couple of Goombas to work with. At first, I tried wall jumping from the front and back of the stage. However, the wall closest to us isn't actually a wall, so we only have one side to work with. Well, technically two sides for a little bit, as we can wall jump in this corner. This is actually huge because it gives us access to a flying question mark block. Lucky for us, this block flies back and forth across this deadly path, so we just have to land on it. But that is easier said than done. This game has some wonky depth perception, and I don't play this every day, so it was really tricky to land on. And man is it slippery. I landed on it a few times and just kept sliding off because my momentum wasn't stopping fast enough. After a ton of tries, I finally landed on the block, super relieved that I had a chance. And then the block stopped. But it didn't stop at the end. No, it stopped in front of these two other brown blocks. So I jumped from those ones and even added in an extra wall jump for good measure, but wasn't anywhere close to the other side. So despite all efforts, 2-2 was still not possible, which means that it's not possible to beat Super Mario 3D Land backwards. But of course, we'll try the other levels out for fun. Going back to World 1, 1-4 was not looking promising. You usually use these tilting platforms to get across, but even with a really good Tanuki jump, there was no chance of making it. You can't even land on the candy cane bars. They're nothing but an illusion. One castle was a pretty funny one actually. I warped back to the castle to fight Bowser, except I can't fight Bowser because the door is closed, and there's no way I can hit the switch that's 2 feet away from me. Not even Bowser was willing to help out. I still decided to try jumping towards where the castle would theoretically be, but I got a death zone instead. As for 2-3, I was really hoping to find a propeller block near me, but there wasn't a single one nearby. However, I was able to make some pretty slick Goomba jumps, which was a lot of fun, at least for these first two. After that, the next Goomba's too high up and I can't reach them. And now comes some fun times with 2-4. I was going across these red and blue platforms that flip every time you jump and noticed I was a bit too low to reach up top. However, there's a sting bee that barely comes into frame, and when I jumped near it, it followed me. That's when some lights turned on in my head and had the crazy idea of somehow jumping off of it. At first, I would wall jump and just lose my Tanuki suit, not getting quite high enough. So I tried again with a kneeling jump, which is slightly higher than a normal one, and it still didn't work. It was so close though, and I also learned something incredibly useful about sting bees. They will only move when they're on screen, which means you can basically manipulate them to go in a specific spot and then run off screen so they won't move until you get into their proximity. But I had one more idea, and that was to use the flying question mark block. This was going to be gnarly because not only do I have to line up the sting bee perfectly, but I also have to pull off a blind jump because the camera is facing the complete opposite direction I need it to. This was my best attempt. Okay, right about there. Let's try that. Yes! Oh, that was perfect! Woo-hoo-hoo! We made it! Oh my god, we made it! Yes! Oh my god. I've been making challenge videos for almost 5 years, and pulling stuff like this off is still so enjoyable. 2 Airship was interesting, having to fight Boom Boom at the beginning and giving him a nice little sneak attack, but otherwise it was really easy. In fact, the next few worlds were either really easy or we lost right on the spot. Moving on to World 3, 3-1, 3-2, 3-4, 3-5, and 3 Airship could all be done. However, with 3-3, you can't wall jump off these floating mattresses, so we can't make our way up to these falling blocks. I also completely forgot we could play as Luigi until now, and since he's got a higher jump, I'll be using him for the remainder of the video. Moving on to World 4, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3, and 4 airship could be completed easily. But going into 4-4, there's a warp box that we need to jump into to go into another section of the level, but it's just out of our sight. And 4-5 was a disappointing one. After clearing an extremely tight jump, we can't make much progress beyond that. The next warp box has us floating in the air again, and even with this platform heading towards us, it is completely out of reach. I couldn't even damage boost off this spike ball or get this Stingme near me on time, so this sadly couldn't be done. And already we're at World 5. For this one, you can beat 5-2, and that's it. Yeah, seriously, World 5 did not go very well. For 5-1, there's a really tricky jump to make which feels amazing to land. But progress halts at the end because this platform does not go back down since it normally travels up and stops. 5-3 can't be done either because the other platforms are too far away to reach. And neither can 5-4 because the pit to climb back up is too far away. This one in particular is really disappointing because it would have been really fun trying to wall jump up this massive hole, but we can't even attempt it. As for 5-5, well, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And finishing off 5 Castle, we're once again blocked by this door. So we could only complete one level in this entire world, which is pretty sad, but maybe World 6 will fare better for us. And it definitely did, since 6-1, 6-2, 6-4, 6-5, and 6 airship can all be done. The only one we couldn't finish was 6-3, seeing as the warp box is super high in the air and is impossible to reach. So with that out of the way, World 7 was an interesting one. 7-2, 7-3, 7-4, and 7 airship can be done. 7-5 was also possible, but holy crap was it a fun one to tackle. Right away, we're forced to make several Goomba bounces in a row, seeing as the wood platform that we normally stand on isn't accessible at all. This required a lot of practice, but learning the Goomba's patterns and even using these blue poles as backups was a blast. I honestly recommend you guys see if you can do it yourself. It's a great challenge. But 7-1 unfortunately has water pushing us away from the flagpole, and that's all that couldn't be done in World 7, so it's time for World 8 already. 8-1, 8-2, and 8-3 were the only ones that could be done. Everything else was a disaster. 8-4 couldn't be done because the floor that brings you to this area is way too far away, and as for 8-5, the red and blue platforms are too high up to reach, and Monty Mole gets in the way anyway. As you'd expect for the castles at this point, the door can't be open to reach Bowser, and 8-6 didn't go any better. I had to make a couple difficult jumps to get on top of this revolving section, but after that is a long line of lava and no way of making additional progress. As for the final boss battle, you can run towards Bowser and even get around him, but the platforms you'd normally climb up actually disappear before you get to them. And it does make sense for the game to function like that because there's no way the 3DS could load in this many objects at once without removing what wouldn't typically be on screen. So yeah, World 8 went pretty poorly, but we still have the special world to check out. But that's not the only thing that's special. Have you ever seen a razor as incredible as Harry's razors?
A big thanks to Harry's for sponsoring this video. Now, as you can see, I need to shave a little bit, so I'm going to be trying out this razor as well as their shave gel, and I'll let you know how it is. While I'm heating things up, I did want to let you know that these are premium blades that are made in Germany for a close, comfortable shave. So I'm expecting something to do a really good job. I usually use cheap razors. I don't even use gel, but let's give it a shot. You may have also noticed that this is a new two-tone handle design, and I've got this ocean colored one. It's got deeper handle grooves for improved grip, and 50% of the plastic in their handle is actually recycled. It's also worth mentioning that Harry's razors are for everyone. There's no outrageous price tags. All you get is a premium razor at an affordable price. And this foaming shave gel is suitable for sensitive skin with skin-loving ingredients like aloe and hyaluronic acid. Now, like I said, I don't usually use shaving gel, but this felt really nice on my skin, and again, this is just a very comfortable shave. Now, in your starter set, you'll get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, a blade cover, and their foaming shave gel. If you'd like to get one for yourself, you can go to harrys.com/NathanielBandy. The link's down in the description. Thanks again for Harry's for sponsoring this video. Now that I'm cleaned up, let's finish up Mario 3D Land, the Special Worlds.
But on to Special World 1. Every level was possible except for S1 Castle, and I'm sure you can imagine why. Special World 2 was more of the same thing, with S2-1, S2-4, S2-5, and S2 Airship being doable. S2-2 was pretty dumb because the pipe is literally right there, but we cannot get enough height to reach the darn thing. And with S2-3, once again, we can't run across these poles because the game hates us. And that's it for this world. So charging into Special World 3, S3-2, S3-3, S3-4, S34, S35, and S3 airship can be done. So almost every level, outside of S31. This is not faring us well considering the platforms we need to reach are super high into the air and completely inaccessible. But now we move on to Special World 4, and S41 was possible, but had an interesting solution. You spawn out of this warp box and have to float down to the bottom. However, because it's such a high descent, you can veer too far off the path and accidentally run into a death zone and die. And I also needed to like float beyond the goal and then kind of come back. It was really weird how the whole thing worked. I don't even understand it fully, but yeah, I figured it was worth mentioning. But otherwise, S43 and S4 airship could also be done. For S42, there's a warp box super high in the air that we can't reach, so basically the same thing that happened with the other ghost house in the normal world. And then there's S44. You kind of just fail instantly and shatter all your hopes and admirations. But don't worry, S45 lets you get slightly farther. And then you'll fail, considering these falling platforms are too spread out and we can't wall jump off the floating mattress. We really need more mattress levels in games, just saying. On to Special World 5, you can beat S52, S54, and S55. S51 seemed doable until I discovered the following platforms absurdly high in the air. S53 wasn't much better since, yet again, the poles have no collision. And do I really need to explain this one? Let's just move on to Special World 6 as it gets a bit spicy. S61 is unremarkable, but things get pretty wild with S63. There's a level very familiar to this one that wasn't possible in the normal world, but as you can see now, we've got access to 2 Sting Bee, which honestly got me really damn excited because that means we can do some crazy shit. We've got access to 2 green switches. One of them lets us get a lot of height. So on top of having that, I can also float down to this other green switch, which isn't all that useful, but at least it helps us put us in the corner. With the corner, I can climb all the way up to the top and try to manipulate the Sting Bee to get farther down this path. This was not going to be easy because they had to be positioned so precisely for this to work. There was a question mark block that I could land on in the middle, but it was really far away. So I basically needed to put this lower Sting Bee in the corner of the level and then lure the higher one in that same spot. But this couldn't be done at the same time or I'd lose the Tanuki suit. This was my best attempt. I think there's legitimately a method to this madness. Yo, come to Papa, baby. Yes. Okay, that's it. Bounce off to be safe. Oh yeah! Let's go. Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it though. Oh, I'm so scared. I'm pausing for a second. Okay, let's see if it works. Come on. Yes. Oh, it's gonna be close. Yeah! Oh my god, I cannot believe we made it. I actually cannot believe that worked. Oh my god. And after that, I could actually finish the level. Well, hot damn. S64 could also be done, but my god, the first jump was a pain in the ass. This spinning block is just barely high enough to where I could theoretically wall jump in front of it, but the fragment of time I'd have to pull that off was quite literally a split second. So instead, I jumped off this railing for extra height and wall jumped on another side, and barely got myself up. The rest of the level wasn't that bad, but my god, was it looking like I was gonna be stuck. Oh, and by the way, S6 airship could be done, not much to really say about it. Unfortunately, S62 doesn't stand a chance because of the floating mattress again, and also the time limit was a problem. And S65 wasn't much better since the floor is too far away, just like the other version of this level from earlier. So after that wild world, let's check out Special World 7. S71, S72, and S75 were doable, and so was S74. But holy crap was this one a pain in the hiney. There's this big-ass Cosmic Mario following me around the entire time, and I needed to make a pretty high jump about halfway through. The only way to do it was to bounce off a Sting Bee, but there were so many things that made this task difficult. The Cosmic Mario, the flipping panels, fire bars spinning everywhere, all of this made for a really intense level to complete. And you might think that S7 Castle wouldn't be possible because of the door, but actually, the door isn't there this time. Oh, well that's nice, because I'm sure you guys were curious if you could actually complete the level itself, considering it's basically repeated 3 times, and you can actually get to the end, although you do need to pull off a tight wall jump near the end. With S7-3, the platforms we needed were too high up. That really has become a recurring trend today, hasn't it? But anyway, let's check out the final place, Special World 8. S8-1, S8-2, and S8-3 were all possible, but my god, S8-3 was just the worst. The big Cosmic Mario following me the whole time, while I also had to avoid these thwomps, took me quite a few tries. S8-5 could also be done, but not S8-4 because there's too much lava in the way to reach the next set of platforms. And as you'd expect, once again, we're trapped behind the door in S8 Bowser. So all that's left to try is S8 Crown. And this whole time, I've been curious to try it out. And I hate to say it, but I couldn't make much progress at all. Once entering the warp box, I was too far away from any sort of platform, so that one can't be done either. So with that, 60 out of 96 levels were possible, meaning only a 62.5 success rate. That's pretty damn low. I mean, that's barely above half of the stages. The lack of multiplayer really made it harder to push this game's limits. But with that, thanks to Harry's Razors once again for sponsoring this video. You can redeem your starter set for just $3 when you go to harrys.com/NathanielBandy. Thanks for watching.